Yo guys, I'm Niek from the Produce School and welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make music like Anyma. Anyma is a solo project of one of the two members of Tale of Us, which is one of the most famous melodic techno duos out there, and you might have also heard of them because of their label Afterlife and their really famous label parties. Lately, Anyma style has been gaining a lot of popularity, and that's why I decided that it was time to make a video on it. I'm really excited for this video as I'm personally a huge fan of his work, so I really like to work on stuff in his style as well. Without further ado, let's head straight into the video. So as you can see, I already prepared a project and I'm going to walk you through this and explain every element in detail so you get an idea on how to create music like Anyma. First, I will preview a little bit of the project so you know what to expect from this video.
Delusion.
I was working on this project and I liked it a lot. And I think you can learn a lot when I walk you through this project. So that's why I decided to go for that approach today. So I want to start with the first element in the track, which is the bass line. And in most of Anyma's tracks, you have a really simple bass playing a 1/16 rhythm. Let me turn off the FX first and show you guys how the sound is made. So as you can hear, without the FX, it's a really simple saw bass with envelope 1 linked to the cutoff. But it's opened up just a little bit, so you really have that kind of subby vibe to the bass. And then there's some tape saturation and some EQing. And I also linked the velocity as always, so you can play around with the velocity to open up the cutoff. Which is a trick I showed you guys a lot, and it still always works on these kind of basses. The bass is just continuously playing on one note, and as you can see here, the velocity changes, they account for a bit of the like variety in the bass. And on the bass itself, there is a high cut and some sidechain. I create a return channel for the bass, and on this return channel I put an echo boy for 100%, and that return channel, when I solo it, it sounds like this. So it's basically just the wet sound coming from the echo boy, and that gave me a little bit more control over the delay, and I added some decapitator and some more EQing, and then I adjusted the volume slider accordingly. So that sounds really fat. After you have your bass, I'd recommend to start for a kick to really get the flow going in your track. And I chose this kick. And I put it down to -6 dB. So I have some headroom in my mix. And the kick and the bass combined sound like this. The kick is really punchy. It's kind of like a progressive house kind of kick, just really punchy, leaves a lot of room for the bass. As you can see, it's not that long, just accounts for the punch, and the bass will fill in all the low end in the gap in between the kicks. On top of the bass, we have the bass shots, and those are really interesting, and they sound like this. So as you can see right here, there's a lot of processing going on this bass shot. And when I turn that off, it sounds like this. And it's basically a white noise layer in 3 times OSC, which just gives a bit more punch. And then it's this bass shot from the Horizon pack, which is an FM kind of bass. A really short envelope, FM from B on oscillator A, with 4 voices of unison to get that wide feel to the sound. Envelope 1 linked to the cutoff as well. Then some tube distortion, multiband compression, and filtering again to get that really harsh kind of FM sound. And for the MIDI, it follows the same notes as the bass line, but not the same rhythm. For example, in the beginning here, there are some fast notes following up after each other, and then some longer notes. Also for this preset, we link the velocity to the cutoff. So right here you can see that some notes have different velocity settings. That gives a really cool effect to the bass shot. So I will start with this EQ, which is a really harsh cut on the low end. But for this sound, I just felt like I didn't want any sub frequencies or low bass frequencies coming through, as it would really mess with the low end bass we already have. Next in the chain is this decapitator with the drive set to around 3. The mix fully opened, and I didn't really tweak the settings on the rest of the plugin, and that just adds that little grit to the sound. And then an OTT to add even more crisp to the sound. And next up, a glue compressor, which is doing a little bit of compression. And it's just to make sure that the bass shot sounds a bit more tight. Because of the velocity changes, there's a huge dynamic range, and this just makes the sound a bit more tight and flat. After that, we have another EQ to boost some of the high mid and the treble frequencies, and roll off the low end once again. Then there's an Echo Boy with a lot of feedback. The mix is put to like 20%, but the high feedback makes sure that in the places where there's no bass shot, you will still have some kind of sound playing to fill up the empty gaps in the drop. Also a little bit of a low cut to get rid of the low end in the delay, because that can get really messy. And then there is some reverb, decay time set to 1.6 seconds and just 40% of wet level. Also some low cut on this reverb. The other reverb and the endless smile on this chain are for automating purposes, and then there's a sidechain as well. As you can hear, there's also some kind of whoop in it. It's the exact same sound, but instead of manipulating the filter cutoff with an envelope, I made an automation right here. If you turn that off, it sounds like this. And that just makes the bass shots a bit more unique and cool. Next we have this donk bass shot, which is a really simple sound that's used for like decades already. But as you can see, it's made in Serum out of 2 sine waves. One is pitched down 2 octaves, one is just on the regular pitch. Then there is some filtering, FM from B, and a delay and a reverb. and that's it for this sound. I also just kept the delay and reverb in Serum, which I normally don't do, but for this sound it worked. So the mixing is just a low cut and some sidechain on 54%. Next up we have this arpeggiator, which sounds like this. A groovy rhythm that accentuates the rhythm of the bass. And also some note changes to make this actually a bit more melodic. And it's just a simple saw plug from Serum. Also just a low cut and a sidechain on it. And an endless smile for the build-up. I automated the filter cutoff. So in the first part of the drop, it's not opened a lot. So it sounds like this. And then towards the end of the drop, you can hear also the bass note changes here in the drop outro, just to add some variety to it. In terms of arrangement, I have a little intro right here. For the first two bars, there is no low end on the bass and the kick. And then right here, the low end is added. And then right here, a little build-up start. So that sounds really nice. Let's move on to the last synth, which is this pad sound. It's a saw pad from the Horizon pack with a lot of attack and a lot of delay and reverb on it. And that's basically it for the sound. Just very dreamy and very pushed back in the mix. On this sound as well, a low cut and some sidechain. And that plays on top of the drop outro. And also in the build-up. So that's it for the synth part. Let's now move on to the drums and the effects of the track. So let's start when the drop hits. And you have the kick that I showed you guys already. And in the first two bars of the drop, I didn't put much on it, just to keep it really clean and keep the focus on all the synth elements. Just some percussive elements such as percussions and some claps. And these sounds like this. And these percussive elements, they repeat throughout the drop. On top of those elements, there are some atmospheric and effects sounds, such as an impact atmospheres. After two bars, heads and claps are coming in, and these sound like this. Then some more effects to transition to the drop outro or the second part of the drop, whatever you want to call it right here. Drop claps, which might be a bit too EDM-ish, but it sounded cool, and a snare on top of it. In the drop outro, the bass shot is not longer there, so the outro feels much less aggressive and powerful than the drop, which you also want. The atmosphere and some of the drums, such as a clap and the head loop, is copied to the intro of the track. And then it leaves us with one vital element of a track like this, and that's the build-up. So the elements in the build-up are essentially the same as in the drop, as you can hear right here. With some uplifters, risers and down filters underneath it, an impact as well. But the biggest part are the automations. For example, you can see a filter cutoff automation on the arpeggiator, a low cut automation on the bass, and an endless small automation for the synth and for the arp, and that sounds like this. After the build-up, you have one bar of the infamous melodic techno silence that works really well to create even more tension before you introduce the drop. And I decided to put the bass shot in that silent kind of part already, which sounds like this. And there's a lot of extra reverb on it. Push it a bit more to the back. And then, last but not least, a vocal just before the drop.
Delusion.
The vocal has some echo boy on it and some reverb, and that's basically it. That's it for the walkthrough of this project. As you can see, it's not too complicated, but you have to get a few really good elements in order to nail this sound. I will now play this track from the end to the finish, but first I want to mention that 5 people that comment down below will get a free copy of the project that I have been working on and showing you guys in the video. So make sure to leave a comment if you are interested in the project. Now let me show you what it sounds like.
Delusion.
Almost all of the sounds used in this project are from our sample packs such as Horizon and Astral, which you can find in the link in the description. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, make sure to leave a comment. Also make sure to follow us on Instagram for daily producer tips and tricks. Leave a like and subscribe to never miss out on the next video, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.